This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
And Elias Spainhauer.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. So throughout the month of December, we're going to be doing a series that takes a look back on 2017. We're going to evaluate what Darkslinger accomplished goal-wise, what we didn't accomplish, what could be better, so on and so forth. So for the first show, we're going to be taking a look at the conventions that we did in 2017. So the first con I did, neither of you guys were with me.
You jerk.
I know. Well, I asked both of you and you were both busy.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So the first show was the Twin Oaks show that happened at Mall 205. This is a show I've done several times in the past, but they didn't have it at Mall 205 in the past. It used to be at the Jantzen Beach Super Center. Basically, Twin Oaks is a company that does shows in abandoned malls in Oregon and Washington. And this one is a trading card show, but it's always been pretty friendly towards comics. I've only done it twice in the last 2 years. It was a pretty disappointing show. So, it doesn't do hardly anything to reach a new audience. It's basically just the same people who have been coming there every time, forever. And when it used to be at the Jantzen Beach Super Center, you get a little bit more natural foot traffic of people just coming in the mall. But I don't know when the last time you guys were in Mall 205 was, but that mall is completely dead at this point.
No one goes to Mall 205.
Well,
I remember
that's not totally true because Mall 205 has Target at one end and Home Depot at the other end. So they go to Mall 205. They just don't walk through the mall. Unless, I guess, they're going from Target to Home Depot. But even then, I think they prefer to just walk on the outside of the mall.
We kind of went there as kids. I think there was an arcade.
I used to go there all the time when I was 18 because there was a comic shop at Mall 205 that was the first place I had a pull box at. But that was a long time ago, and it was a much, much different mall. Back then, they didn't have Target and Home Depot.
Many moons ago.
Many moons ago. So, like, they had a Game Crazy there and all that kind of stuff back then.
I don't know Game Crazy.
But anyway, now it's mainly just a bunch of vacant buildings. Most of the inside's completely unrented. So there wasn't any real natural foot traffic. So most of the people that were there to shop were there for trading cards. So the best thing I can say about that show is that I got 4 omnibus editions for $20 a piece. And that's literally the best thing I can say about that one.
Doesn't sound like anyone would do too well.
No. I made my table money back, but didn't make any gas. No profit to that show. So the next one I did was Frankenstein Comic Swap. Did in March 25th.
I recognize that handwriting. No, I was there.
Yep, you were at that show. That show we made money at, and I bought a ton of stuff at that show.
Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah.
You just kept coming back with fatter and fatter stacks.
I know, I kept abandoning you at the table and shopping.
That's okay. It was too unorganized for me to want to keep going anyways.
Oh, the vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much for me.
But you got some issues with Lucifer you were looking for there, right?
Yeah, but I didn't pick those up. You picked them out for me because I just wouldn't go through everything.
Is that what happened?
I got a couple from the guy across from us, a couple issues of I think I got like 1 or 2 Flash and Gordon's Law.
Oh, the Batman miniseries?
Yeah. Picked up the first one from that to try it. And that guy was cool because I waited all day until he was getting ready to leave and he put a thing on there. It's like 25 cents a piece.
Oh,
comics.
yeah. Yeah, didn't that guy eventually put his at 10 cents a piece?
No, I think he just he had them at like $2 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then he dropped it down to a quarter right before the end in like the last hour, and that's when I finally went and looked at his stuff.
Right.
Couldn't find anything that I really wanted, so I just grabbed 3 random issues. Had $1. He's like, I don't have a quarter. You can just take them.
Yeah, one of the greatest things. That show is more of like a old school ComicCon like they were when I was a kid.
I liked it.
When I was a kid, you went and there were dealers everywhere. Prices were always really cheap. Reasonable at comic conventions. It's absolutely got that type of feel to it. So we made a pretty good amount of profit at that show. And I sold 1 copy of Who Will Save the World, which was a nice surprise because honestly I don't expect at a show that's primarily full of like 50-cent dollar bins that I'm going to sell any Darkslinger product. So the fact that I sold even 1 I consider to be successful. In
Thankfully,
those
it
terms.
was that.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, it always seems like you always end up spending a good.
Oh, I
good
spend a good amount of money at Frankenstein. Yeah, I was a shopper at Frankenstein long before I was a vendor there.
I like it. It's a nice little thing. And
Yeah, I
whenever
love
you
that
hear
show.
about people that were at the first Comic-Cons, it's always, this is how it was, is what you see like that.
Mm-hmm.
Small little thing.
This one wasn't attached to that toy show one?
No, this
Okay.
one was independent.
Just pure
So,
Frankenstein.
yeah, you haven't actually been to one of the pure Frankenstein shows yet.
Nope. Just it's
And
always
it wasn't
been
just
the
comics either.
something toy
No,
show
no, there were
mix.
people selling toys and things of that nature.
Mhm.
I mean, when you do a Comic-Con, people can bring any collectible they want.
Yeah, the
It's
guy next to us was selling books. Like old
paperbacks.
old paperbacks of like science fiction.
Yeah, he had like The World of Gore, G-O-R, I think it's pronounced Gore.
some old erotic books.
Quite
as
a
well.
few old erotic books, which I honestly didn't think you'd be able to sell old paperbacks at a Comic-Con.
I guess
I was pretty
he
surprised.
He picked two good subjects to try to sell there. I
Yeah,
think.
he did, and there were a lot of people who were really into it.
They were.
So anyway, yeah, next year I will definitely plan on returning to Frankenstein as a vendor. I believe they have 3 shows a year, and as long as I have the inventory for it, I'll do all 3. And if I don't have the inventory for it, I would still go as a patron. So what about you, Robert?
I'd go back. I think as either.
Mm-hmm.
If I had something else to do, I'd drive myself out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't really have anything else to do that day out there, I might not make the venture out just because I might not feel like driving out to Portland that day.
Yeah, driving out to Portland is a bit
But
of
it
a
was-
stint when you live where we do.
It was good, definitely fun.
Yeah.
I cannot stand vendors not being alphabetized,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
that kind of puts me off sometimes.
At the same time, that helps me to make more money usually because
Yeah.
people like to look through bins that are alphabetized, and mine always are.
I like that. It kind of makes me want to pass things over.
Yeah. Okay, so the next show we did was Vancouver Toy Show that happened on April 1st. That show I was a little unprepared for in ways because
That was the one that I went to with you.
that was one, you were my helper at that one as well. That one, from the Facebook and everything, I thought that it was only going to be vintage toys. So I didn't bring any of my newer stuff. And then once we got there, there were people who were actually looking for like Funko Pops and things like that I had. But I was unprepared to sell that stuff there. So I think I could have made more money there had I been there at any point in time as an attendee.
And it was a lot of random stuff too.
It was extremely random because it's primarily toys, comics, and records, right?
Yeah, they had a big one section of records and VHS.
Yeah, there was one whole room that was VHS there.
Yeah.
But I sold a lot of comics there, sold a few toys, and I got quite a few issues for my collections of the Dreaming and Elementals while we were there. I didn't sell any Darkslinger product at that show, but with the type of show it is, that's not really that surprising.
Sold a couple of random old records.
Yeah, we did. We brought a couple old random records.
Is this the one that pairs up with Frankenstein usually?
No, they just did this year.
Okay. Well, I meant, okay. And is Frankenstein pairing up with them ever again, or is it kind of hit and miss?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have no clue. I just know that their midsummer show seems like it's going to be paired up with somebody. Last year it was paired up with Lineworks Northwest.
Ah.
One of the least enjoyable things about the Vancouver Toy Show was one of our neighbors.
Oh, that guy just kept wanting to talk.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was a gentleman selling laser discs.
He said the
And
same thing.
He
over
drove off quite
and
a few
over
customers because
and
he
over.
was like shouting at people who said that they preferred DVD or Blu-ray to laser discs.
And he gave the same speech to every single person that
He
walked
gave
over.
the same speech, and I don't know if he realized how impolite his salesmanship abilities were. But
I
it was
don't think
like
he
he was
he
straight
sold
up
only a few
insulting
things, too.
people that liked other formats more than Laserdisc.
Well, laser discs are neat. They look cool. They look kind of like records.
Right,
And that's what I thought he had at first.
right. That's what I thought he had to.
And no one really came along that wanted to buy any. It's cool. It's vintage, but
It's a dead media, so
Yeah.
and it's not even like VHS where tons of different households had it.
it's a very small market.
Very, very niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the last one that ever came out was End of Days. And that came out in, what, 1998, 97?
No idea.
So,
I know very little about Laserdisc.
Yeah, so it died with, that being the last movie ever released on Laserdisc in the United States. So it hasn't been made for, 20 years. Of course, there's not going to be that many people coming by for it. But
he was the only person there that had them, too.
No, he wasn't. There
Wasn't
was
he?
one other guy that had him, but the other guy that had him, it was just a very, very small sampling amidst a very, very diverse selection of toys, records, memorabilia.
I would have brought more cash to that show had I known how many records they had.
I would have brought more cash to that show had I realized how many comics were going to be there. So,
there were some annoying kids behind us, too. Some guy brought his children with him that were just running like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those kids were being really rough on everybody's inventory.
Yeah, that's bad for them.
Mm-hmm. But all in all, we did have fun at that show.
It was entertaining.
We picked up quite a few things to read, mainly. Not really a whole lot else to say about it, right? Made profit. It was not a waste of day. Made profit, picked up things to read.
You know what to look
Had
at
fun,
next year.
Right? Knew what to prepare for the next Vancouver Toy Show. Or at least that's what I thought. So, after that came Sasquatch, which was in Eugene, Oregon, which was on April 30th. And that one had Mr. Elias helping me out at it.
Yes, it did. I can see my handwriting on those numbers over there.
That's how you guys can tell?
Yeah.
Well, no, I heard Squatch. I immediately knew it was probably me because I love that show.
So Sasquatch was one that I had no idea what to expect from it, but I did expect it to be something like the Frankenstein comic swap. In the most relative sense, it is. I mean, it has the same sort of product there. Vendors are selling the same sort of things there. I would say at Frankenstein, you do see a little bit more obscure, where at Sasquatch, you saw a little bit more superhero. Mm-hmm. It's like at Frankenstein, it's easier to find, like, if you're looking for something like Love and Rockets, something like that, or like at the first Frankenstein, I filled in quite a bit of my collection of Scud Tales from the Vending Machine, which was a series I had been looking for a long time. At this one, at Sasquatch, I filled in quite a bit of my run of Elementals, but there wasn't much that was obscure that wasn't, superhero based. So I'd say the vast majority of what was available there from most of the vendors, most of them were superhero fans. At that particular show, I sold one copy of Who Will Save the World. So once again, sold one Darkslinger product, which I'm still counting as a win because it's not the type of show that you expect to sell independent comics at. It's the type of show that you expect to sell cheaper comics at.
Well, I believe the other time we went there, someone walked by. I think the time previous, was it last year? I don't know. I'm getting them.
We'll get to that one. We haven't got to that one yet.
Okay. But yeah, no, I think a few people were interested in looking, but eventually came back at a later show.
Right.
And we were there still.
So at that show, we made travel costs, we made table costs, we made profit. We made food costs, we made the whole thing. So, we did really well there. One thing I would say that I found to be an oddity at that show is how quiet it was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quiet from a lack of people being in the room. It was just a very, very quiet show. It was almost bizarrely quiet the whole time we were there.
Wasn't this my first one?
It was nice in ways. This was the first time you were at a show with me.
Yeah. Okay. I remember this one a lot better now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Puts things in, because I've been there.
There was an elderly gentleman that had a table there who was napping in the corner the whole time we were there. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Our neighbors were fantastic at that show. They were great. Everything about the people, completely polite, nice. Everybody was nice. So it was a good show. It was very, very quiet, though, which damn near put me to sleep a few times just because of how quiet it was. So it was oddly quiet in that room.
Oh, yeah.
But it was fun. Found some good stuff. That's where you first got some of the comics that you read.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely opened my eyes to a whole new... And plus, like, the old couple next to us were just awesome.
They were.
And then the other old dudes on the other side of us, it was so funny. He was like, they have drinks here. And they were just super stoked about a Moose Lodge having drinks. I'm like, yeah, we're in a Moose Lodge. Why would they not have drinks? But yeah, no, it was all around just a really good show.
Yeah, I loved the elderly couple next to us. She's telling me, what was it? Some story about her past at a job she used to work at, and I asked her what it was, and I expect like school teacher or something like that from the way she's like, I was a blackjack dealer in Vegas. That was the last thing I expected. So, they were awesome. We had a great time talking to them, hanging out with them.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else about that show?
There was that one vendor who, like, obviously they never came back, but that one where you got the boxes, like, they had a bunch, and the sleeves, I think, too. They had a bunch of, like, t-shirts, things like that, but, like, their display was huge. They obviously had a lot of inventory there. And
there are a lot of the shows.
And as far as I know, they never came back to Squatch again because it just wasn't, there wasn't a lot of interest in any of the stuff they had, except for, obviously, comic-related things that collectors need. Like
they were selling a lot of new stuff, and that's primarily what those guys do. So they were actually at 4 of the shows that we were at this year.
They didn't seem to come back to Squatch at all. So
they didn't. So the next show we were at was Fantasticon. It happened on May 13th in Tacoma, Washington. And that was another one that Mr. Elias helped me out at. This show was put on by my good buddy Don Roman. That was a profitable show. Didn't sell any Darkslinger product at that one. Which that one I primarily set up as Darkslinger because I didn't know what to expect. So I took about half the number of long boxes that I normally do at that show. That one was the show where we had like no space behind the table.
And we met Floyd.
We met Floyd for the first time at that show.
And somehow you didn't meet him at all at any other show.
Right, despite the fact that we're
you guys
friends.
Know everybody.
Yeah, we have tons of mutual friends. So yeah, Floyd at Planet F Studios. That's the first show that I met him at. Great guy, and now a friend of mine. But the one thing about that show that sucked more than any other show was just the little amount of space that existed behind the table.
Yeah. There's a small amount of space, and, like, it got really hot in that room really quick.
Yes, it did.
And then we opened up the windows, and it was fine, and it's, of course, Northwest started raining, so we had to close the windows before everything got ruined, and it got hot again, and musty because it was wet,
Right.
But
so,
location-wise, not the best, but it was a pretty good show.
Yeah, it was decent. I mean, we made money. My biggest complaint about it was just how little space there was behind the table. And I think I bought less at that show than I did any other one. Yeah, I found hardly anything to buy there. Because most of the vendors there were selling their stuff for like $2 and up. And it was all pretty common stuff for the most part. Yeah. So I think I walked away only buying like 2 things that show, which is pretty uncommon for me.
Yeah, I think I just got a Beast Wars toy, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's all I really got there.
Yeah. Neither one of us really bought anything at that one.
And then I think I don't think I opened it. I think I ended up giving it back to you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I was just like, this one's not that cool. He can go.
That was because he was plastic, not die-cast.
Oh, well, the Beast Wars didn't have very many die-cast, did they?
I think they had a few, but I don't know. I'm not a Transformers expert. You have to ask Julian.
Ah, gotcha.
So, yeah, all in all, on that one, would return to it.
Oh, yeah.
It was a profitable show. A lot of the profit in that show did come from a single buyer.
Yeah.
There was one guy
he was kind of he seemed kind of resale-y because he was...
Oh, he was a reseller. Yeah. He was set up there.
Yeah.
So, and I would have said maybe he wasn't reselling what he purchased, but he was getting like 10 copies of the same thing. So, he was.
Well, but I remember like haggling with him, or he was haggling with me, and then you walked up and were just like, no, you're trying to get like tons. I think you wanted like 45 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there was like a good amount of comics there.
Yeah, he had $93 worth that he was trying to get for 45, and I already knew who he was because I
was willing to go down to like 65-ish, and that was pushing it for like because I was still new to it.
Right.
And then you came by and like, let's just do it for 60. I think he just wanted to.
No, it was 60, but he had to put back $30 worth in order to get 60.
Yeah.
It's funny when one reseller takes it from you being a reseller yourself. It kind of makes you wonder what's going through their head to get to that point.
Well, the thing is, I saw some of the comics he was buying from me in the bin the next time, right? And he's selling them for like $1 a piece stuff he bought from me for 50 cents a piece.
I guess you can move it for $1.
If you can, but that was about 4 months in between the 2 shows. He hadn't managed to move them.
And then you just got to sit on it forever.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. So, I don't know. Maybe he just really liked the covers, and he's the type that likes looking at the things in between the time they sell or something.
Could be.
So the next show after that was PCNW, which happened on May 28th. This was a show going into I thought there was no potential way I could lose money at. It happens in Salem, which is very close to here. It's like, what, $10 worth of gas, something like that. The tables were only $15 a piece, so I bought one to be a reseller, one that was purely a Darkslinger table. We knew some of the people that were going to be there, like Floyd, who we'd previously mentioned. He was at that show. Donna, who runs the Sasquatch Comics Swap, she was there. Yeah, so that show we walk into, and Elias was my helper at that one as well. We walk into, and I was very worried for about the first 5 minutes we were there, because that show was divided into, 4 different rooms? 3 or 4, something like that?
I think, 3 or 4, and a long hallway full of tables, too.
3 or 4 rooms in a long hallway, and then when we first walked in, the people who were first set up were at completely round tables. Which I was just like, I'm not putting my stuff on a round table. It's not going to happen. Like, nobody's going to buy off a round table. Which I was right.
Look at all your stuff right there.
It's not. And it's not easy to set up a long box of comics on a round table. I mean, if you were going to take, like, everything out of a box and display it, you could do that on a round table.
Yeah. I can see maybe underneath the table, like, if you weren't being, like, behind the table at all.
Right.
Like, underneath the table, it would give people more room to look through them.
Yeah.
But it'll still be super awkward and weird.
Right. And so this one happened at, like, a old Masonic lodge? Is that what it was?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the rooms was like, it almost looked like a tribunal room in some way. Like, it had a judge's chair up in the front of it. I don't know if this place used to be some sort of legal building, or if it's just, if they actually have some sort of trials at this particular Masonic lodge or something.
It's the Masons, man. You can't trust them.
Oh, yeah, there's that. But, but in any case, that's where they had 2 of the vendors that I knew set up, and they told me that whole room was just completely dead. And it was really weird walking into it.
Yeah.
So they had these round tables on the sides, and then this big judge's chair at the very end of it. And, like, here they are, just kind of weirdly sat up, you know? So, oddly enough, for a show that only cost $30 for 2 tables I lost more money at that show than any other show.
Yeah.
I bought a few things here and there, but one of the biggest problems I found with that particular show is there wasn't any real flow to it. So apparently there are like 5 or 6 people that are in charge of that particular one. And there were a lot of people selling video games, toys, comics, just all kinds of random things, but they didn't have the people grouped together in ways that would make sense. So they had all these different rooms, but they didn't put all the comic vendors in one room and all the video game people in another room.
Sporadic.
It was just completely sporadic and made absolutely no sense with the way it was laid out. There were also people that I had talked to outside who were about to leave, and I don't know if it was just these particular people or if it happened with several, but they were about to leave because they couldn't figure out where they were supposed to pay their entrance fee at.
Yeah, because there's like 6 entrances to the place.
There were 6 entrances, and they only had people posted at one of them, and it was directly in the middle of the show, not on either end, where it made a little bit more logical sense.
Yeah.
That's why you just walk in.
And I thought it was going to be a good show because...
There probably were people who just walked in without paying, honestly.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was going to be a good show because I saw balloons outside. And then I realized that the balloons was for the food truck, not for the venue, and that's why it turned. I've come to the conclusion that if you have balloons on your sign for your show, it's going to be a good show. And so far, it's been right.
Why don't you tell the listening audience how you came to that conclusion?
Was it the Squatch show?
Yeah, it was
a Squatch show. And I'm like, oh, they have balloons. They will know we're here.
No, that's not how you came up with it. It's because the elderly lady that was sitting to our right had stated that this wasn't going to be a good show because there weren't balloons outside. And if you don't have balloons outside, it's not a good comic show. And so that's how it all got started. With her saying that. You took that and ran.
Because I totally thought it was a total original idea.
No. That became your theme of the year, and it was because you had heard her say that.
Well, she's wise. She knows what's up.
She is. She's probably been doing conventions with her husband longer than we've been alive.
Very true.
So at that show, I sold absolutely no Darkslinger product and sold very little of anything, period.
We did bring toys that show.
We brought toys, we brought video games, we brought comics. We did bring pretty much all of what we thought people would be into.
Yeah, and I mean there was like there wasn't very many sales, but I mean when it got close to the end of the day, this one little girl's been eyeballing that one. It's from My Little Ponies, the Funko Pop.
Yeah,
It's like a
Pop, the
dragon looking
thing.
thing. It's got like 6 different parts on it, like different from different things. I can't remember his name.
I'm sure that there's going to be a brony listening that knows. So.
But yeah, no, and yeah, it was. Other than that, like the table kind of behind us was selling fidget spinners like mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't.
Well, that was right during the peak of the fidget spinner.
But they, true. But they literally like almost sold out their entire table.
They did sell out their entire table.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, had we brought fidget spinners, we would have made money hand over fist.
Yeah.
I don't invest money in fads. So
People are idiots that buy those.
No, I just find it funny. Like Adam's like, wait, you have to spin them yourself? I thought you just hold each side. And
they
like,
looked like it. The middle looks like a button.
And they just go.
That's what I thought they were.
And
Like you squeeze it and then it...
Yeah, I thought you squeezed it and then it spun on its own, right?
And honestly, I think we should just like somehow put this into effect, just so Adam can have an
self-spinning fidget spinners.
It'd be a lot better than one that you
Less
hold
the work.
and spin with your finger.
This is the fidget spinner fad 2.0.
And then there's a 2.5, which like as far as the fidget spinners go, it spins. Woo. But what if you added those little LED lights that when they move, they make little designs and shit?
I think they do have those
now.
Oh yeah.
But like, why would you want a regular one that just spin? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Why would you want one?
I don't
You
know.
kind of look like an idiot.
All the kids wanted one.
Now the fidget
very
cube.
briefly.
Like if you're a kid, okay, you're an adult. What the fuck are you doing walking around with that? You look like an idiot. Get a job.
Get a job. Well, I mean, and the little fidget boxes, those are cool. I can understand. They have a bunch of little things that you can. They're actually like for fidgeting.
Right. They have
everybody
a whole
else is
bunch
just
of different
spinning stupid shit.
Right.
Anyway.
So anyway, we did have a relatively good time at that show.
Yeah, I found.
Got to hang out with some of our friends from Salem.
Yeah, I found one action figure, and I think that was the only thing I bought there.
Yeah, I bought
a
couple of video games and a couple of comics there.
Yeah, and I think you did sell something that's not on the list over there, but it was something that you had set up. You had some sort of movie or something that you had with you. You had a box of movies, but you had a couple specific ones for one dude. We
stopped at Phi afterwards, and we sold them at Phi.
No. Afterwards. There was a dude there that you sold something to. I remember because you had me walk over and.
Oh! You're talking about an offer-up deal on VHS.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, so
not a lot of action.
After the end of that day, I crossed that show off as something I will not be returning to. So that was the second show of these that I decided maybe I'd go back as a buyer at some point, but much like Twin Oaks, I decided to never set up there again.
You did like that one horror dude in the corner, though.
I did, yeah. He was a good connection.
Yeah.
He actually promotes independent horror stuff. There were a lot of good people there.
And
it wasn't that there was anything wrong with the people who were there.
Yeah,
it was just
not the people, more like just
it just seemed like a hobby trade event.
Yeah,
it didn't seem like a convention. And to be fair, it sells itself more as a hobby trade event.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like it lied about what it was selling itself about or anything like that. It's just not what I expected, and it's not one I have any plans to return to.
No.
So. I didn't return to the next one that happened that year as a vendor or as a buyer either. And to be honest, I probably won't any of the future shows just because it just wasn't a show for me.
Yeah.
Honestly. The show that came after that was yet another Frankenstein, this one a crossover with the Vancouver Toy Show. Happened on June 17th. And on this one in the sales book, we have a nice little My Little Pony sticker in there that was put in there by a 4-year-old, so it's pretty cute. You were my helper at that one once again, Elias.
Yes.
And that show was kind of odd, because Frankenstein's always a really good show, and Vancouver Toy Junkies was a pretty good show the first time Robert and I did it. Putting the two combined kind of seemed like it threw off the mojo of both shows in some weird way, though. But there were other things that worked against it, too, like graduation happened late in 2017 in Oregon because of all the unexpected snow that we normally don't get that we got in 2017. So graduation was a few weeks later for most schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one...
Father's Day.
Yeah, I think it was a day before Father's Day.
My birthday's on Father's Day most years. And
right.
it was the day before my birthday.
Yeah, okay.
So I was just like, that was definitely
I was
another...
that day.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun.
So I think that there were probably a lot of other events and family gatherings and things like that that took precedence for a lot of people too. I did get quite a few good deals there. You know, I bought about the normal amount I would at either of those shows. And we made money. Show. We made money at that show.
Oh, yeah.
It was more, the sales were kind of fewer and far between. Like, there was a lot of time between people coming up to your table at that one.
Yeah.
Was this in Portland?
No, that one was in Vancouver. So it happened at the same location, the old Red Lion Hotel, the Vancouver Toy Junkies normally in. You know, we made profit that day. Still had fun. Bought a lot of great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely did not sour my expectations for any future Frankenstein or Vancouver Toy Junkie shows. But overall, and I heard a lot from everybody who was vending there, it felt off comparatively with the other shows that are Frankenstein or Vancouver Toy Junkies sepalarly.
Yeah. I think June is just a bad time.
June can be. It can be a bad time.
There's so much going on. Like you said, graduation, summer starting. People are going on vacation at this point. Or they're just not wanting to do anything within a big city. You know, they want to get out.
Right.
They're trying to escape in this month, I think.
Yeah, and that was another one that I did not sell any Darkslinger product at, but I didn't expect to either. But all in all, that was, you know, it was a fun show.
Oh, yeah. I picked up a lot of comics. That's the show that I found out that apparently my favorite author has been translated into comic form, and I found that amazing. For people who haven't read my Drizzt books or the R.A. Salvatore books that I've read, it'd be a nice little introduction,
right?
Just to get the feel for the character and to know kind of the backstory and stuff, and then you can get into the actual novels.
Yeah. So, and it was at that show that I found a series. I buy a ton of comic interview magazines and publications that are about the comic industry. And at that show, I came across a large lot of a British publication. It was never published in America. That was interviews with comic creators, and I'd never heard of it before, so I bought up the whole entire lot. And that was worth it for me right there, just being able to find that.
Oh, yeah.
Because those things are like gold to me. I read those constantly, as I think you should if you want to be anybody in the comic book industry. So,
it's like Creator Crack.
Basically, yeah. It's a lot like Creator Crack. So the next show was the Wenatchee Toy Show that happened on June 24th.
Let's go back real quick to Frankenstein. The first one we did in the year, you had said that you wanted to get 2 tables.
Yeah.
The next time.
I had wanted to get 2 tables.
Had you gotten that?
No, I still only was able to get 1.
Oh.
Part of the thing is that I was buying tables at multiple shows. And so there was only so much like investment capital I could afford, even though they're really cheap tables at most of these shows. It's still like, you know, do I want to get 2 tables at this show, or do I want to get 2 tables at 2 different shows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the next show was the Wenatchee Toy Show. And this one was once again Mr. Elias helping me out there.
By far my favorite.
And this was a complete spur of the moment show. So I had not done one since the Vancouver Toy Show, which was on the 17th.
Of June.
So I guess that's really not that much time in between the two. But it was pretty much like right after the Vancouver Toy Junkie show, I saw a Craigslist post that was advertising the Wenatchee Toy Show, and it was in Portland. I'm like, oh, if it's Portland Craigslist, it must be a really close show, right? So I got a hold of the guy, and I'm like, you know, do you still have tables available? And the posting had said toys, comics, so on and so forth. And so I figured, what the hell? I don't have anything else going on this weekend. I asked you if you wanted to tag along to it. You did. So with 2 people going, which is important when you're going to be traveling as far as Wenatchee ended up being.
I think I was drugged during that one, too.
You were drugged during that one. Because you had just had a tooth removed. Yeah. Not because you had met somebody skeezy in a bar the night before.
Yeah.
So well, that's not to say that didn't happen.
That might
wasn't the reason that you were drugged. Yes.
In any case, Wenatchee ended up being a 7-hour journey from Malala to there.
Yeah.
But this was by far and wide my number one pick of the year for shows, not because I made more money at it than I did anywhere else, but because I sold the most Darkslinger product at this one than I did anywhere else. And this one, there's a lesson to learn from this one for indie creators who do a lot of shows, and that's that getting to an area that you've never been at before, where no one has seen your product before, can really pay off. When I'm doing the shows in Portland, Vancouver, or Salem, most of the people who frequent these places have seen what I have available. I have one new comic that I printed this year, which will be covered in our next wrap-up episode, and one new product, the Chronicles of Von Helsing skull glass. So those were the only two new things I had. So the majority of people in this area had already seen what I have to offer. But Wenatchee was a totally untapped marketplace for me. Another thing that really paid off with this show is the gentleman who ran the show had apparently told people there was going to be an independent comic creator coming from Malala to it. So there were people who actually seemed like they were seeking me out there.
Well, another thing I've noticed with all the shows I've done previous to this one, and obviously I think even including in some of the post shows, you don't see that many independent creators out there in shows unless they're big ones.
Not this type of show.
Yeah, well, not like the little ones we've been doing. Like they seem
there
to go
are
to the bigger
zine
shows.
symposiums and mini comic cons and things like that you'll see a lot more small time creators at.
Okay.
But this is not that type of show because these are mainly dealer shows that I did this year.
Yeah. One thing I find that's kind of awesome about the dealer shows is like they walk past the Darkslingers and go to the box, and then they keep like looking over, and I said like let them know like, hey, this is independently made by the guy who's also selling these. Like I'm just the muscle, and they have questions and they want answered, and like they don't. It's like they don't normally run into them at these shows.
Yeah,
and it's kind of a nice little like.
Yeah, that was one thing. There were 2 other independent creators at Wenatchee, I believe.
Oh yeah.
But they were from that area.
Yeah.
And the people who are at least I believe they were from that area.
Probably nearby.
Most of the people that I talked to there had told me that they're an area that just never gets independent comic creators visiting. So the fact that I was one that was in the area, almost everybody that came up to the table wanted to know something about a Darkslinger product or Darkslinger in general or me as a creator. Something of that nature. And
it probably did also have to do a lot with the backdrop that we were actually able to put up.
Yes, we were actually able to put up the Darkslinger backdrop at that one, which we were not at Fantasticon because of the fantastically small space we had behind us.
Well,
I barely had room to sit behind that table.
That's the only time we've ever used it, though.
It was the only time this year. I've used it previous years. Yes, that we've ever used it. So overall, I absolutely loved that show. I thought it was great. Sells were really good. I did sell quite a bit from the long boxes as well, but the vast majority of things sold that day were the Who Will Save the World graphic novel, the Chronicles of Von Helsing value packs that have all of the issues in them,
including the little
various Darkslinger posters. All that kind of stuff.
That one little girl just loved the artwork so much. It was amazing.
The one that I made get her dad's permission in order to buy it because I was not sure how old she was.
Right.
Yeah. But she's an aspiring artist, so it's great that she wants to study other artists.
It was so funny. She's like, no, I've seen way worse than this.
Right.
She's got some battle scars, bro.
So, yeah, that one was a great show for multiple reasons. They had balloons outside. They did have balloons outside.
That's how I knew it was going to be a good one.
Yeah, that show just had an excellent vibe going on. Everybody that was there seemed completely happy to be there. And apparently there is a comic-specific show that happens in Wenatchee in April. And as long as I can get the funds together for it, which I don't know how much tables are yet, or if they've sold out, I need to look into that actually. I plan on taking a road trip over there in April and doing that. And if they have this Wenatchee Toy Show again next June, I will absolutely be back there for that as well. So this is an area I would very much like to visit once again. Not too far from Wenatchee was a little town I'm going to call Leavenworth, I think.
Yeah, it sounds just like the prison.
Yeah, I think
But
it was
it's
Leavenworth.
so much more pleasant.
Apologies if we're incorrect on the name.
Yeah.
But it was really strange because like every area we went through to get there was all just desert, right? And we go to this little town because all these people had told us we should visit it while we were there.
They had a comic shop there. We should go check it out.
They had a comic shop there that we should go check out. And it was just a cool little town. We're like, no, we got to get home. But on the way home, it turns out it was the exit right off of the road we're driving on. So I figured, we'll pull over here. We'll stop. We'll rest for a little bit. We'll walk around, right? We pull in, and the only thing we can use to describe it, which if you're not from Oregon, you're not going to know, but is Mount Angel.
On crack. Like,
No, because on crack would make it worse. It was like on ecstasy.
On ecstasy, yes. It was, literally like...
It was an awesome little town. It everything there looked like, what do you call those towns?
It's Bavarian.
Bavarian, there we go.
Literally...
So
like Mount Angel.
Yeah, but
the
whole
better because
town.
like Safeway was Bavarian style.
Ye old
And
Subway.
Yeah, Subway was like ye old Subway.
With a wooden
and
sign, and like it was just amazing.
Yeah.
This place sounds fantastic.
And unlike all the rest of the area, which is all, deserty, this area was like this little oasis where you pull in and it's trees and a river going through it, and
Quaint
it's just
little
like,
German town in the middle of Washington.
It was like being in a completely different area. Apparently they have a huge tourist industry for Christmas, which I fully believe.
Oh, and Oktoberfest too.
And Oktoberfest, I imagine, it's huge for Oktoberfest. But
I kind of want to go up there on Christmas.
the comic shop there didn't have much to offer in terms of the type of stuff I'm into. Because it was primarily brand new superhero stuff by Marvel and DC. But I'd still go back there, just check it out, and it was cool. It had a cool name.
Oh, yeah.
Krampus Cave.
Yeah.
I like the name.
It was, yeah. It was
intriguing.
Yeah, and it was like in a basement of a shopping center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were a bunch of businesses next to it, like a restaurant, things like that. But it was like underneath other businesses, which kind of reminded me of being in certain parts of Seattle. So overall, I'd love to go back to Wenatchee, and I would definitely go visit that little Bavarian.
Oh, yeah.
Leavenworth? Leavenworth. When we're there again. I think that'd be fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the way back from Wenatchee might have provided the most interesting travel on any of our ways back, because
we should have gassed up while we were in Bavaria.
we should have. The thing is we're in a car that goes from a quarter of a gas tank to empty in no time, or at least that's the way it seemed to me when we're on the way back. So
could have been those giant fucking hills.
We seemed to have plenty of gas left when we left Wenatchee, and I just was driving and not paying attention. It's one of the few times that I just didn't pay attention to the fuel tank. We did not run out of gas, but we came damn close to it in an area that was nothing but mountains and no cell phone service. So we're coasting down these hills, no cell phone service, and the needle is just going closer and closer to eat and farther down. The gas light came on, and we had to drive 44 miles past the gas light coming on. So it's like a thing
Well,
to where
okay.
I
Usually
thought
you have
that,
like 1 to 2 gallons of gas left when it comes on.
yes, but I was in Audra's car, and I don't know when exactly it completely runs out of gas.
Well, you can just assume that you have about a gallon left, and
Right.
then if you know around how much you'll get.
But, we had been seeing gas station, and then all of a sudden, there's no gas stations, and we're in this area.
For a long
So
time.
at about the 24th mile of it is we're just coasting down this hill. I see a business on the side of it. I'm like, okay, there's got to be a gas station there, right? Because there hasn't been one for 24 miles.
Haven't
It's
seen
like some
anything
sort of
for-
lodge, something that has gas in it, right? We get closer and closer. It's an Italian bakery.
in the middle of
Just
fucking
seated in the
nowhere.
middle of absolutely nowhere. An Italian bakery
Well,
that
did
has...
you get something?
No, we didn't want
even
to stop.
stop.
We didn't want to risk that.
Too bad. I bet they had good stuff.
They probably did. So yeah, we finally make it to the gas station, and this guy comes walking up, no shoes, no shirt.
Got bum smoke.
Got bum of smoke. Hey, you guys shouldn't get gas there. Go another 2 miles, and it's 10 cents cheaper. Like, no, it's cool. I'm going to pay the 10 cents extra. I don't care.
We're lucky we made it here.
Right. So anyway, next time we head to Wenatchee, I'm going to make sure that, I gas up more frequently.
Oh, yeah.
But all in all, fantastic show. I'd love to return there.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully I have the same reception for Darkslinger stuff. That's definitely my top show of the year. for no other reason than the reception Darkslinger got.
Oh, yeah. It's my top show. I found a group.
Yeah.
And I
You
also
found
had a
a
lot
group
of fun.
that you then turned into making several comic-style pages on Facebook. So if you want to see that, go request Elias Hippie Druid on Facebook, and you can see all of his his Groot / Deadpool action
Golem.
figure comic.
There's Golem involved too.
Golem, yeah.
But now I have all the Guardians, so it's
random.
going to get crazy.
Oh, you bought all the Guardians?
Well,
when we were at
a
the
different
other
show.
Okay.
And that really pissed me off because I bought Groot, all 3 Groots. It came in one package for $40, and then at this other show, I found all of them, like all of the Guardians for $40, and I'm like, okay. It turns out my sister got a Groot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. So the next show was Robert's big triumphant return to being my convention helper.
No, it wasn't as big of a comeback as you might expect.
The No-Po show. So this happened, was it St. John's we were in?
I don't know exactly what you call it because there's so many little areas that all have their own
Fair
names
enough.
around there in Portland.
So it was the North Portland show, and this wins the award for strangest convention of the year.
I was at it was like the Twilight Theater.
Twilight Theater. So this one was at the Twilight Theater, and there were 5 tables. Or not tables. I guess there were more than 5 tables, but there were 5 vendors set up in total.
In a room that was maybe the size of your bedroom.
That's not really going to tell people much. But
think of a decent sized bedroom.
It was smaller than the lobbies at most McDonald's. That's fair to say, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Way
far
smaller.
smaller. Like, what else could we even compare the size to?
A small doctor's office waiting
There we
room.
go. That would work. Yeah. I would say that's about right.
Not like a hospital waiting room, a small doctor's office.
No, and here's the part that I really wish I would have known going into it, is that we had to carry the inventory
Up two
flights of stairs. So I don't know if you've ever slung a long box over your shoulder full of comics. You know, it's only 44 pounds. But by the time you get to the top step on, what was it, like 100 degrees that day? Something like that?
Something like that. It was real hot.
You get it up there on a 100-degree day. Well, we ended up leaving 2 long boxes in the car. I'm just going to put it that way.
Well, we also didn't have enough room.
We didn't have enough room. But we didn't even attempt to bring them in either. We were just like...
And there was barely anyone that came through. It was like a community theater.
So,
except it was in like the style of your high school.
There was barely anyone who came through. But because there were so few vendors there, this actually ended up being one of the most profitable shows we did all year.
It worked well.
So damn near everybody who came through those doors ended up buying from us. It's not that hard to figure out why. Of the 5 vendors that were there, we were one of only 3 that were selling comics.
Yes.
Because one of them was a new friend we made from...
And he didn't have very much, though.
I don't think he was selling anything.
No, not
from
really.
the Worst Comics podcast. I think he was just giving out promotional material for his podcast, wasn't he?
Yeah, he might have had some free comics as well.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really selling.
Yeah, I think he had like free coloring pages of Marvel characters or something like that. And then there were some other people there that had like craft type stuff. So they were 2 of the 5 vendors. So yeah, there were only 3 of us in total that were actually selling like actual back issues of comics. And I was the only of the 3 that had 50-cent issues in my bins. So a lot of people spent quite a bit of time right there with me. And I made money hand over fist, but there were a lot of people that we heard saying, this can't be this whole show. Did I actually just pay entry to get in for this? You know, things of that nature.
You walk in and you don't even have to turn your head.
No. Since
you could take...
We were right there by the door. There were so many people that were asking us specifically, like, where's the rest of the show at?
Here's a good measurement. From one vendor on one side, because we were in a square, to the other on the other side, 4 steps away? 5 steps away?
I'd give you maybe 10.
Oh, I don't think it was quite that far.
I don't think it was either, but I'm being really, really
Like 10
benefit
was
of the doubt.
10 was Stewie feet. Like
Right. So we had fun at that show. It was a fun show.
Except for the middle part, it was a little boring without any...
It was a little bit boring through the mid part, but you know what? A lot of shows are in the middle of the day because middle of the day is a common time when no one's really in there.
Yeah.
But, overall, I would say it was a fun show.
The people that put it on were nice.
The people who put on were exceptionally nice. Everybody was super nice. And people bought, they came there to spend money. They found stuff in my bin, so it totally worked out for me. I wouldn't return to that show, though. And it's not because I was dissatisfied with the show itself.
It was the stairs.
No, it wasn't even the stairs, even though I would probably make you go with me next time because you don't bitch as much as Robert when you have to haul things.
Well, you call it bitching. I call it making you do something.
No, we made a good amount of profit. Like I said, it was one of the most profitable shows I did this last year. I sold a copy of Who Will Save the World. So, I met my goal of trying to sell at least one Darkslinger product at this show. I met that goal. Met some good people. I had a good conversation with Colin, I believe his name is, from the Worst Comics podcast. Had a good conversation with him, met him, liked him. So there was even good networking there. All those things are basically the check marks of things that would make you want to go back to a show. But here's why I wouldn't do that show again. It was because of how many people mentioned this is it, this is the whole room, where's the rest of the show? Those people who mentioned that probably will not pay an entry fee to this show twice.
What was the entry
And they'll
fee?
probably tell people
I think
not
the
to
entry
come.
fee was only like $1.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll tell people to just skip over it.
Yeah, they're not really going to be recommending the show or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the only way I would consider doing that show again is if it's been like 2 or 3 years and I've heard that they've somehow grown, but I don't think they could grow because I'm pretty sure the show was set up to benefit the theater that it was held in. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there'd be space in that place to really expand that show.
Well, it looked like there could have been a bit more space where the actual theater area was.
Right.
But they didn't use it.
Right. Well, they couldn't. They didn't have the vendors for it.
Well, that too.
They also held that show during one of the really, really big conventions. I think it might, in fact, have been San Diego. The big ComicCon International. So, it's always pretty dangerous to put your show up against the biggest one, too, even if it's not in the same state, because a lot of your buyers are going to be there and your vendors are going to be there.
Yeah. I could also see it kind of being a good thing, too. Like
it is occasionally a good thing.
Oh, I can't make it to the show. There's one nearby? Yeah.
Right. I'll go ahead and go there.
Yeah.
But, all in all, it was a fun show. It was a profitable show. It just was the opposite of a big show. It was the first time I've ever done a show that had less than, I'd say the smallest one I'd done before that had 25 vendors there. And so, first time I've ever done a show that had less than 25 vendors.
Less than 10.
Less than 10. And it was interesting. It was interesting
just,
only having 5 vendors there.
It was too small. I wouldn't go to it as a attendee. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even ride with someone to go to it as an attendee because it's just so far out of the way. And
right.
There was only a few people. And it's just, I can go to a shop.
Right. Shops don't have cover charges, things like that. So,
yeah, and they have plenty to look at.
Right. This episode ran quite a bit longer than what we were expecting. So we're going to cut this one into 2 parts. We'll be posting the second part of our 2017 convention wrap-up next Monday. So join us next Monday and every Monday. I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Elias Spanhauer.
Thank you for listening.